welcome once again to India Today, India Tomorrow, this special show that cuts across generations to bring you a slice of life. Joining us today are two very special guests. I'm joined by Commodore Uday Bhaskar, one of the country's premier strategic studies analysts, former Navy officer, and his daughter, Swara Bhaskar, actor. So it's the soldier and the star who've come together. So I want to ask you, what is dinner table conversation about? Is it about Kangana Ranaut or is it about Galwan Valley and Eastern Ladakh? What is it that sort of obsesses the family?
I think I'll defer to Swara on this. She can tell you as to what we discuss at dinner, and I'll confirm whether it's correct or not.
Well, he's deferring because he's always late to dinner, first of all, which is a constant complaint of my mother for the last many, many years. Just want to put that out on national television. But I think that we catch up mostly on the day, what's happened, and then I sometimes check with my dad what his view is going to be, what his public position is going to be on affairs of national security. And sometimes you have to check these days. So I have to be like, so are the Chinese really in India, Dad? And then he...
But I think I do one thing, Rajdeep, which is at dinner when we do meet, the three of us, Swara's mother and the two of us, I try and draw their attention to something interesting that I have read in the paper, because I'm a newspaper junkie. So normally I try and flag some of the editorials and the op-eds, and at times it becomes a topic of discussion. So I draw their attention, and that becomes the subject of discussion. Ira, as you know, has her own views, so...
So sure. So you're the news junkie.
Yes.
But your news doesn't really sort of move into the world of Bollywood. That's a completely different universe, right? I mean, till she entered the film industry.
That's true. I think
did you have any interest? I know your wife's sort of...
yeah, she's a film professor.
She's a film professor.
So there is that interest. But I must confess that I have started, shall we say, focusing more on Bollywood after Swara decided, much to my surprise, that she would, go and join Bollywood as an actor some years ago. So now I know a fair amount about Bollywood.
He now knows a lot.
The fact is that there are examples in Bollywood of children of armed forces officers who've made it big in Bollywood. So it's not unusual in that sense. But what is unusual is not too many people have had an MPhil or MA in sociology, MA in sociology from JNU, and then made that journey. So presumably the JNU influence is a deeper influence in a way on you, your politics, your choice of cinema?
Definitely. I mean, I think I'm a DU and JNU girl, by the way. So I did my bachelor's in Delhi University and my master's in JNU. And then, of course, my parents have been an influence, and school and college. So definitely, I mean, I'm sometimes surprised myself. Like, I don't know what I'm doing in Bollywood. I have the wrong soul for the industry, I feel. If you look at my social media handles and pages, I only follow news handles, like you who are journalists and other news channels. I don't follow any Bollywood sort of gossip sites. Like, my team has actually taken my phone and they're like, can you start following some Bollywood sites as well?
When she took this decision that she wanted to go to Mumbai, explore the idea of acting, did you sort of see it as something which didn't trouble you a bit?
It was a bit of a surprise for me, because...
They don't lie, you were really scared.
You were scared?
He was terrified.
You were terrified?
He was terrified.
May I choose my own words?
Go ahead.
No, I'm saying that when she took this plunge, for me, when she went to Mumbai, we knew it as Bombay, she had ostensibly gone to work at the EPW, the Economic and Political Weekly.
Really?
She was a sub-editor.
Copy editor, even though...
She was the hard-left journalist at the EPW.
Where she worked for a few months.
Right.
And then, of course, she made this particular transition. And yes, I was concerned. That's the word I was looking for.
I'll tell the real story now. He's a measured man. He chooses his words carefully. So, till I was going to Bollywood, I was studying to take my GRE to apply for PhD programs in the US and UK, in anthropology. So like a completely different sort of lifestyle. My father had a secret wish that I take the civils, and he thought that I would become an IFS officer, and I was like, really, Dad? Have you not looked at my report card?
Good JNUite. He wanted you to follow a good JNUite tradition.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so I decided, and I hadn't told anyone because I was actually so ashamed of my own fantasies and dreams that I was like, I can't believe, like, with this background, I want to, dance around trees. So I hadn't told them until I had made some phone calls, found some people, kind of just basic references in Bollywood, done a portfolio shoot in Delhi. So I brought all this one evening to show them my portfolio and be like, I want to be an actor. And he was like, he didn't say anything. He was just like, what? And then he looked at my mother, he's like, Ira, would you like to say something? So, and my mother's a lot cooler, and because she teaches film and all, she was all like, okay, yeah, this, that. And then I brought a friend who works in Bombay to chat with them. The next morning, having read 8 newspapers, it so happened that one of the newspapers was covering the casting couch. And it was a full-page article. So he's taken that, he's marked it in red, and he's pasted it on my bathroom mirror. So that the moment I'm brushing my teeth, the first thing I see is this. And it says, Swara, please see, please discuss this, that. So that was actually his reaction.
You were concerned from putting those red lines about the casting couch to generally being concerned about your daughter, presumably in Mumbai. Have all those concerns gone?
Not really, Rajdeep. They still remain, because I think this is an industry, which makes certain, shall we say, demands on a young person. And as a parent, I would say that there's something Pavlovian. You do get a bit concerned, especially when your child is not proximate or near you. Sure. So there are all kinds of things. So I would say honestly that the concern remains, but maybe now, we are both getting more used to the idea that she is in Bombay.
The interesting thing is, therefore, success for you has come in a way without any godfather in Bollywood. And perhaps more and more of you are examples that you don't need to have a film background to necessarily, carve a little niche for yourself in the film industry.
Absolutely. I mean, I actually think that the word is such a loaded word that it's a blanket judgment, nepotism. It exists. And I'm like, yeah, of course it exists, but nepotism exists everywhere, in every single industry. And I think what people don't understand is that the idea that, you get one launch and your career is made and you're a star forever, it doesn't work like that. This is an industry where you have to keep at it for years. You have to keep delivering on the launch. And I think that definitely, I mean, I've actually gone a step ahead and described our industry as feudal. It's not just nepotistic. It is actually feudal in its structures. So if you're born within the industry, many things are easier for you. But I think that, especially speaking today, I think that there are so many chances and there's so many platforms and there's so much there's now almost a credibility that just comes with being an outsider, Sometimes I feel sorry for the star children.
Yeah, no, it's interesting you're saying that because, you find yourself on the wrong side of this debate, perhaps with a Kangana Ranaut attacking you and Taapsee Pannu as what B-grade stars.
Yeah. Media outsiders. Media outsiders.
Yeah, and the fact is you worked with Kangana and both of you are outsiders in a way. I mean, I'm unable to understand, is it just a dog-eat-dog world or cat world out there in Bollywood where, people it's so competitive that that actually it's not insider, outsider, it's as much it's just competitive.
The thing is, you're absolutely right. I think that what people forget is that showbiz anywhere in the world, any industry, any language industry, showbiz is a highly competitive world and it is a dog-eat-dog world. What is there to say that an outsider will not abuse their power when they become a star? I mean, this idea that only insiders misbehave or only insiders throw tantrums or so on, I can tell you that I have worked with both insiders and outsiders, and some of the best behaved and most professional actors are actually the star children, who are very hardworking, always on time, and treat everyone decently. And I would like to say, in a measured manner, like my father, that I have actually often found that it is the outsiders who tend to be in a situation where the stardom goes to their head and they start misbehaving with everyone.
You're referring to Kangana Ranaut.
I'm not referring to anyone. I'm just saying that abuse of power has nothing to do with where you were born.
Presumably from the India that you were growing up into the India that Swara is growing up in, these are completely different worldviews. What's the biggest change that you see?
I remember when our children were small, Babri Masjid happened. And that evening, Ira, my wife, their mother, she was talking to 2 young children. And we are talking about 92. And I recall that we were all agitated. And at dinner, as a mother, she was trying to explain to these 2 small children as to what it meant. And when I look back, it is the same discussion that we are having now in a completely altered context. We recall the India that we grew up in and the India that we are now grappling with, where I think if there is one element that causes much distress and dismay, it is this lack of tolerance. And also, I would say, a certain very, very ugly polarization that is taking place, even amongst our own community. There is a very sharp polarization about issues, about values, about the idea of India. And I think that is one thread going back to 92, Babri Masjid, which is what I think our children were taught about in different ways, to where we are now in 2020. But I'll leave it to Swara.
Because in a way, you have obviously been influenced and embraced some of the ideological leanings of your parents, but you are living in a much more polarized world. So any comment you make, for example, on Twitter, you immediately get enraged follows. I keep seeing you trending on Twitter.
Twitter has contributed significantly to my stardom. And it really has, and it has ensured that I don't, it's very strange. Firstly, I don't really subscribe to the concept of stardom in that sense, but my public persona is actually disconnected from my films. I don't need a release. It's just so bizarre. I'm grateful for it in a way.
No, but presumably that's not the reason why you're speaking out, let's say, on contentious issues like the Citizenship Amendment Act.
No.
And you immediately get trolled the moment you're called an anti-national.
Not just me, them also now. I've brought it home. I'm sorry.
Oh, I see. They get attacked as well.
Both of them, my dad and my mother, a lot, because now she's in genuine poor thing. She's not even on Twitter, and they keep digging up, things and saying, "Oh, but did you know her mother?" They have dug out my mother's abstract, her PhD thesis from the NYU library. And that they posted on Twitter saying, look at her mother's research. It was on the partition and trauma.
You've never thought, might as well quit social media. How long am I going to take this of being called anti-national and worse, that you've been called on the media, the abusive language that is used, particularly against a woman. Have you ever thought, enough is enough, I'm getting off?
I have now come to a place where I feel like I don't just represent my own views, which of course I do, and I believe in everything I say. I think that there are a lot of people out there who look to me and people like me to kind of speak up, or, it's almost like I feel like I've lent my voice to larger issues than just my own individual views. So I feel like I'd be abandoning a team kind of thing, or abandoning a ground, where there's like a fight that's on. And I think that I must say that my parents have actually been very good and encouraging, though I keep telling them not to read the comments and they don't listen to me at all.
But because I was researching and read something that you wanted her to sort of get off Twitter, or at least take it off her phone. Is that true?
He's got a Google alert on me.
That's true.
Yeah. I'll tell you, on this, Rajdeep, I must say I also had to change my views. I was very concerned, I would say last year, especially when this entire CAA thing was going on, and she had taken a position and she was attracting a lot of, I would say, vicious comments and threats to her life. And I went to her very seriously and I insisted that she go off social media for about a week or so. You remember when I told you? And then I thought about it and we had a chat. And then I think she made a very important observation. She said, Dad, this is a public space. And we had actually done the Nirbhaya March in 2012. She was 2013, when she was leading the student, sort of, not leading, but part of the student effort at that time. We went to that particular bus stop, after that ghastly incident. And I remember she used that analogy with me, saying that, you remember that bus stop? I said, I remember. She said, what if you were there that night? Wouldn't you have done something? And I said, I'm sure I would have, to the extent that I could. She said, in many ways, cyberspace is the same. If we abdicate, and we do not resist or put across another view, then it's going to get more and more corrupted or more and more distorted. And I saw the merit of that argument. So now whenever she takes a position, I do track what she's saying. I look at the kind of responses, especially on issues related to gender, where, you know this very well, you can see the kind of, I would say, orientation we have in India just now. And she's taken some positions where, as a citizen of India, I'm very proud of her. But as a father, I am very concerned, and there are occasions when I've reached out to friends in Bombay.
Is Bollywood a good place for you in that sense, where you get a sense of solidarity from colleagues, or are you isolated when you take these positions, or indeed when you do a film or a web series where you've been attacked, not necessarily for your acting, but because of the ideological position that you take? Is it easy for you in Bollywood to be taking these positions today?
I used to feel very lonely till the CA-NRC protests happened, because I think that the CA-NRC was an issue that I think just brought a lot of people who had not been necessarily speaking out as much, and many people from Bollywood also just like, you know, were like enough and decided to take a position. So after CA-NRC, I actually find myself in some very stellar company. But before that, it was quite, I mean, you know, people were always like, what is your problem? Like, everybody would be like, look, we agree with you, but really, what is your problem? Like, do you want to be an actor or do you want to be a politician? But that has now changed. And I think that Bollywood now, in the last 6 months especially, has gone through, you know, they've really now, the whole of Bollywood is at the receiving end of what I have been receiving for the last,
it's
say,
not a
4 or 5
polarized world
years.
in that sense. Bollywood doesn't often speak its mind as often as it should.
It doesn't.
Which is very different perhaps to Hollywood. And you know, where you've had actors over the years taking strong political positions.
But sir, I think that has to do with the kind of country we are in and our mentality as a larger society. The fact of the matter is, you know, and I'm sorry to sort of put this back on the audience. I mean, I consider myself part of the audience as well. You know, people keep saying, oh, you know, there's no Meryl Streep in India, there's no Meryl Streep in India. Really? Meryl Streep could stand on a stage, on a public platform, and call out the president-elect of the United States of America and feel no threat of any kind either to her life or to her career. Are you telling me that any actor, any artist, or any journalist for that matter, or any citizen for that matter, can do that in India? I don't think so.
You seem to suggest that there are two Indias, the India you grew up in, which was much more tolerant and accommodative of different viewpoints, and an India now where people take very strong, strident, polarized positions and are not willing to talk to each other.
Yeah, and I think
you see that in the services as well?
Well, I think there is a certain trend emerging, definitely, I would say.
Even in the services?
Well, not amongst the serving people, I don't want to speak for them. But definitely in the retired community now, you can see a certain amount of, I would say, very strong views being in a way articulated. But I would say that this is across the board, Rajdeep, because you can see this even amongst the retired professionals, even in the civil services, where there is a certain amount of, I would say, sympathy, empathy, or identification with the current regime. My real sort of concern is one of national security, saying that we are eroding the ozone layer. You know, this country's internal security was predicated on a very delicate balance where all the diversity was accommodated. I think that is being chipped away at in a very, very corrosive manner. That concerns me. And I think the greatest danger is, and I say this, you know, with a lot of, I would say, anguish, there is a kind of make-believe that we are being encouraged to believe in. I used the word simulacrum once, and people said, what does it mean? And I said, it is really, and I use this in the national security context, that there is a sense of make-believe that feel good. And that is also now being played out, I think, in this ideological kind of thing, that we are now talking about graded citizenship. That to me is, I think, a very serious kind of, shall we say, development in terms of what is happening in the country, and the hatred plays out there. You know, when we talk about the lynching, the anti-Muslim sentiment that is increasingly now, you know, I would say, it's increasing. And I think that could have very serious consequences for the internal security and stability of the country. And I think we should all be pondering about that.
Dad would often say to us that, you know, in the armed forces, we're very secular and we don't, you know, that all religions have a place within India, and all religions, and he would often describe that in an army cantonment typically, that there will be a temple, there will be a mosque, there will be a church, and and that is the idea of India that we inherited from our parents. And I think everyone in my generation inherited those values. And I'm wondering now, what do children learn at home? Like, are we teaching this generation, I'm talking about the generation that is, you know, say that was born 5-6 years ago, what are they going to be learning?
Let me put it this way, isn't Bollywood also very secular in that sense?
Yes.
You know, it doesn't matter which religious community you come from, you can make it to the very top, right?
Absolutely.
You're not seen as a Hindu or a Muslim when you sort of enter Bollywood. Do you?
Absolutely.
Am I right?
You're absolutely right, and I think that that is one of the most beautiful and redemptive facts about Bollywood is its high diversity. But I do want to say to you that, you know, even that is changing in terms of there is actually an attack on that nature and that character of Bollywood, because I'm sure you have seen these as well, because some media houses have run those, you know, the Pak connection to Bollywood and ISI Bollywood and Jihadi Bollywood. These are actually the hashtags that have been run by certain sections of the social media and certain sections of the, sadly, national media. And the way in which, and I really want to say this here, the way in which the Khans have been targeted in the last 5 years. It is before every film that releases that stars one of the Khans, there is a counter campaign that is calling them jihadi.
Interesting, because now we've also got campaigns against Riya Chakraborty, this actor in the, you know, because of her relationship with Sushant Singh Rajput. There's a media trial against her as well.
Pretty horrifying.
Which you seem to have again taken a strong stand. You've again jumped into the fire.
I'm always on the wrong side. I'm always on the wrong side of populism.
No regrets with that?
I don't claim to know any details, and I have to say I have not followed the story because it's so vicious, it's so poisonous that I can't listen to most of the things that are being said, even the questions that are being asked. I do think that mob justice, the very idea of mob justice is problematic. It's problematic. It was problematic to me as a concept even when we were talking about Kasab. Even a terrorist who has been admitted, caught with proof, I still feel that it is for the judiciary and the judicial system to come to a conclusion after a fair trial. And I think that is the basis of any civilized society, and that is certainly the basis of any liberal democracy, right? I mean, Riya, everyone has decided she's a murderess. And that, I mean, and the kind of things that are being said, and the kind of, you know, on WhatsApp, on that ecosystem, on social media, I showed you something, and it's something that you can't air on your channel because it's so abusive. So I just feel like, I'm not saying I don't know what has happened, but I'm simply saying it is not the job of media channels to decide, and it is certainly not the job of the audience. As we end, we look to India tomorrow. As you said, in 1992, it was a bit of a turning point. There was no WhatsApp, there was no social media, there was no 24/7 breaking news channels either. How do you see the future? Are you someone by nature optimistic about this country and what India will be in the future?
I think we are going through a churning, you know, that metaphoric manthan. And there are many, you know, shall we say, strands that are now emerging, many kinds of undercurrents. But at the end of the day, as far as India is concerned, I think we are going through a very difficult period now in terms of different challenges. But as far as the long haul, you know, the India of the future that that you're pivoting the show on, I remain a cautious optimist.
Cautious optimist. What about you? I mean, the film industry, as you said, many more opportunities today. You're doing more and more web series, OTT platforms all over the place. Many more opportunities today than perhaps 25 years ago.
I think many more opportunities today than 10 years ago, when I arrived in Bombay.
Sure.
And I think that I think we've all seen how powerful the media is. And when I say media, I mean your end of the media as well, but also my end of the media. So both the non-fiction and the reality news space, but also the fiction space. And I think that we are sitting on something that has tremendous power, tremendous reach. And I hope that we're able to sort of put it to responsible, judicious, and good use.
You want to enter politics?
I don't know what kind of politics is going to sort of be there in the future. I'm sometimes worried about the path that our political system has taken. I don't know if there'll be a space for someone like me in that place.
But you're not saying no.
But I mean, for right now, I'm very happy being an actor. And
just think about it. Tomorrow she comes home and says, Dad, I'm done with the Hindi film industry. I've decided it's time to contest an election. What will you say?
Surprises never cease.
Well, I will not ask him to finance that, because I have to say that while they were worried and scared, they were very, very supportive of me financially. Because I told them that I'm a heavy investment, like the Indian Railways. So you have to invest for some years and then you will get returns. So that was the logic.
So the returns are now coming.
I hope, in the form of trolling.
In the form of trolling. But at the end of the day, I think you've made your choice. You've chosen a career path which is very different to that of your father, but I sense in you a bond, and mother, and it's a bond that will last forever. So thank you very much for coming together.
Thank you
the
for having us.
soldier and the star.
And it's the first interview we've done together, so thank you for the opportunity.
Great. Thank you. That's it on this very special show of India Today, India Tomorrow. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.
Hi everyone, Preeti Chaudhary here. Hope you like this video. For latest news and analysis, like and subscribe to the India Today YouTube channel. And don't forget to press the bell icon to stay updated. Thank you for watching.